What's up guys, OpTic Ashes here, bringing you a video on a topic that I was kind of tweeting about today, and that is the topic of poaching in esports. Poaching is when a team or team members approach the members of another team in order to convince them to join up with the original members, but those members that they're approaching are under contract. So basically, Team A approaches players from Team B who are under contract in order to join Team A. Poaching is a big legal risk that a lot of people don't really understand, because you are breaching a player's contract, and it's bad business, it's bad karma, and it can have legal repercussions. So what do you do if you are interested in a player of another team who's under contract? Like, how do you handle that kind of situation? Well, basically what you need to do is you need to approach that team's management or their owner, whoever the contract holder is, and get permission to then approach the player. You can't just approach the player directly and be like, oh, can you talk to the manager or the owner? You have to talk to the management. There have been cases in the past where a team will approach the player and say, hey, we're going to talk to management about offering you something, but it's almost always best to just go straight through management, get their permission first, and then approach the player. Once you approach management, you can inform the player that that you're talking to them, you're talking to their team owner about possibly making that player an offer, but it's important to make sure that you give prior notice to the owners and management and don't actually make an offer until you get that permission. Now, they have every right to say no. They can say, no, we want to keep that player. But usually orgs have the player's best interest in mind, and at least a lot of the top orgs that really care about their players. So they may want a large buyout if they think it's going to affect them or their standings in a tournament, or they really value the player. Or they may just, ask the player, hey, is this a team you're interested in going to? And the player says no, and so they tell you no. But it's up to them. Ultimately, you have to follow what they say. This has been a major issue in the past with League of Legends teams, especially in the LCS, but also in Challenger, where I'm definitely familiar with. I've had players poached from me, and it's awful. It's a tough thing to deal with, especially in a smaller scene where the money really isn't there to make it worth the time of pursuing legal action. So you're just kind of left SOL. Now, Riot Games does have a Riot Games does have a very strict policy, an anti-poaching policy, that basically leads to fines and suspensions of teams or players who attempt to poach from other teams. And we've seen this before with CLG, where they've had issues with poaching, and multiple other big name teams in League of Legends. It's not an offense that's taken lightly at all, and it can sometimes be brushed aside in other games. And one of my main concerns is that it's going to be something that we're unfamiliar with in the Gears of War community, but will happen. And I think there's probably a chance that it's already happened. If a player is contracted, typically they have a buyout on their contract, like I mentioned earlier. And what a buyout is basically a fee that can be paid to the organization in order to transfer the ownership of that contract to another team or organization. So, approach the management and talk about, negotiating a buyout, because contracts will have a buyout written in them, but often organizations might negotiate the buyout. They might make it less because, it's something that the player really wants to do. It's an offer that the player really wants to pursue. My biggest thing is I want to know how, if any way, if there's going to be any kind of protection for the players or for the organizations. Like I said, Riot Games has a very strict anti-poaching policy that protects the teams and the players. Will there be something similar now that there's $1 million at least on the line for Gears of War 4? And this is just the first year that we know about. We don't know how long Gears of War will last. We don't know how much the prize pool will increase. And I could see poaching becoming an issue, especially after the first tournament, after the launch tournament, after people kind of get their footing in the game and all the rosters start scrambling to try to find the best team possible. But everybody's looking for organizations right now in Gears of War UE. So players are signing contracts and committing to a period of time that they're going to be representing this organization, but we're going to a new game, so we don't know what the players are gonna do, what the teams are gonna do in terms of changes. Where will there be a roster mania? Because more than likely there will be. So if you are unfamiliar with contracts, I will be releasing a video hopefully sometime this week that's going to discuss contracts and kind of like my tips with contracts. I have about 4 years personally with experience in negotiating and handling contracts in esports. And I will be featuring in that video a special guest or a friend of mine who is actually a licensed attorney and works in esports. So he and I will be discussing some of our like do's and don'ts and our top tips for negotiating contracts and just how to handle contracts and signing contracts. Hopefully that'll be able to help you guys who maybe aren't familiar with that and are newer or younger get a better understanding for the whole contract side of esports, because obviously you want to be sponsored, you want to be successful, you want to have a great org that you want to represent, but you have to do it, intelligently. So that's going to be the goal with that video. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. I know this was a short video and I want to apologize again for my lack of videos for a couple days there. Internet is beating me, man. I'm losing the war, but I'm still fighting. So hopefully the internet stays stable. I can start streaming again on Monday, assuming that internet's working, and I can get these videos up to you guys. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below if you've experienced poaching in Gears of War or in esports in general, or maybe what's your story, what have you seen? I'll be looking forward to reading those comments, and I hope you guys will click the subscribe button down below. I really appreciate the support, guys. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Woo!